Hello everyone, welcome to our latest opinion poll tracker video. So here we go again, I'd like to bring you more polling data. This time we're looking at opinion polls and the prediction from Electoral Calculus from those opinion polls from February. And I shall get on that for you in a moment, just to say that if you're enjoying the vlogs on the channel here at the moment, I don't upload enough, I know I don't, but if you are enjoying what do manage to upload here on the channel, then please do like, share and subscribe, and thank you so much everybody for doing that. Right, we'll go to Electoral Calculus then. We shall have a look at their latest prediction based upon the opinion polls that were conducted during February 2024. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! And there it is. The latest prediction is for a Labour majority of 260 seats. Still going for a landslide. And a record-breaking majority there for Labour. So let's very quickly go through that prediction. It's partly changed on last month, actually, just up for Labour. So Electoral Calculus are giving the Conservatives a central prediction of 113 seats with 25.2% of the vote at the next election. Labour on a central prediction of 455 with 43.1% of the vote. Liberal Democrats on 9.9, so 10% of the vote, with a central prediction of 40 seats. Reform on 10.2% of the vote with a central prediction of no seats. Green on nearly 6% of the vote, central prediction of 2 seats. SNP predicted to get 3.2% of the vote and 18 seats. That's way down on what they got in 2019. And Ply predicted to get 0.6% of vote with 4 seats. There's a margin of error in that prediction as well. So at the low end, the Conservatives could go down to 42. Absolute wipeout and oblivion. Although 113 really is wipeout and oblivion as well. But at the high end, they could hang on to 239, which, given the scenario at the moment, I think they'd be rather pleased if they could hang on to 239 seats, rather relieved. Labour could be as low as 327. Note that is still above 326. They need to get an overall majority. They could be on 537. So virtually every seat in the House they will control with that, of course. Liberal Democrats could be as high as 57 seats. That gets them back close to where they was in 2005, I think, at their high point. At the low end, they could have just 18 seats. Note again, at the highest end for the Liberal Democrats, they are above the lowest end for the Conservatives. So technically, within the margin of error anyway, the Liberal Democrats could become the opposition to the Labour government. Highly unlikely, but, you know, mathematically within the margin of error, it's possible. Reform at their lowest end, well, as they're on 0 seats, their central prediction, their lowest end is also 0 seats, but at their high end, they might get 11 seats. And for Green, they are at 4 seats for their highest end, but 1 seat at their lowest end. The SNP could hang on to 39 seats at their highest end. They could go as low as 6 seats at their lowest end. And for Ply, well, they could be on 4 seats at their highest end of the range of the margin of error, and on 1 seat at their lowest end of the range of the margin of error. An enormous turnaround, of course, on what happened in 2019 when the Conservatives managed to pick up 376 seats with 44% of the vote, and Labour were on just 197 seats with 33% of the votes. This is a massive, massive, massive change from the Conservatives to Labour. Huge swing there. And for the Liberal Democrats, it's interesting because, again, we talked about this before. Liberal Democrats have a prediction this time of about 10% of the vote. In 2019, they actually got 11, nearly 12% of the vote, but only 8 seats. So what accounts for the difference between the Liberal Democrat predicted vote share actually being a bit down on 2019, but getting a lot more, around 40 seats. And the difference, of course, is tactical voting. So that is where Labour voters will vote tactically for the Liberal Democrat candidate to either get the Tory out, get the Conservative MP out, or to ensure that a Liberal Democrat wins a seat rather than a Conservative winning the seat. So anyway, there we go. We've got a central prediction of a Labour majority of 260 seats. Let's have a quick look at the polls that that prediction is based upon. These are all of them from February. So I think the smallest Labour lead that we had during February was this poll just here, MORI Common, which actually only gave Labour an 11% lead. And that would be enough in a general election for Labour to score a pretty solid majority, I think. But probably not a landslide. So with that, we see Labour on 40% of the vote, Conservatives on 29% of the vote, nearly getting to 30%. We also had Savanta, which was formerly Comres. They had the Conservatives on 29% of the vote as well, Labour on 41%, and that gave Labour a 12% lead there. So one or two of the polls had a more modest Labour lead during February, but many of them had an enormous Labour lead, a very large Labour lead. So let's go through a few of those, shall we? So, for example, we've got Redfield and Wilton here, which gave Labour a 25% lead back in February. And we saw that Labour was on 46% of the vote, Conservatives on 21% of the vote. We also had another huge Labour lead with YouGov just here for the Times, which gave Labour a 26% lead. So Labour on 46% of the vote, Conservatives on just 20%. And it's absolutely terrible for the Conservatives to be that low, this close to election. Remember, we will be having an election within the next 12 months. The biggest Labour lead was, I think, Ipsos, formerly MORI, or Ipsos MORI, our oldest pollster, which gave Labour a 27% lead towards the end of the month. So Labour was on 47% vote, Conservatives again down on just 20% of the vote. That is the biggest, I think, the biggest Labour lead that Ipsos have ever shown, and the lowest Conservative share of vote that Ipsos have ever shown. And they have been polling, as I say, right way back into the 1970s. YouGov again at the end of the month had Labour on 26%, with a 26% lead on 46% of the vote. So it's again 20% of the vote. Notice as the month goes along, actually these polls with Conservatives down around 20% or so, they get more common. Actually, we see them more frequently earlier on in the month. Then perhaps Labour Conservatives are more towards the mid or the higher 20s. But as the month goes on, looks like the Conservative vote share is dropping, if anything. DeltaPoll with a 21% Labour lead, 44%, 23%. We've got Opinium here with a 15% Labour lead. So they found Labour on 44% of the vote, Conservatives on 25% of the vote. So it's just about holding on to the mid-20s. They tend to have slightly lower Labour leads, along with Savanta as well. But yeah, these polls were really, really bad, you know, for the Conservatives. For being this close to be elected. Absolutely no sign of a swing back to the government whatsoever, the governing party whatsoever. Usually, as you approach the general election, you do get some swing back to the government, but as I say, absolutely no sign of that. If anything, it looks as though the month went on, the Labour lead got wider. So this is how the overall polling graph is looking from Wikipedia. As of where we are right now, I'm doing a video on the 18th of March. So again, we see Labour very, very solid somewhere in the mid 40% overall. Again, you'll get some polls that place Labour in the upper 40s, some polls that place them in the lower 40s. Yeah, it's in their central sort of position, see from the thick red line, which is the trend line, of course, in the central position, they're like in mid 40%. Conservatives, notice, so Conservatives are actually dropping a little bit. So this is the low point for the Conservatives in this Parliament. This is just after the Truss mini budget in September, October, or around October of 2022 there. And so that's the low point of Parliament for the Conservatives, and that's the point where the lead, which had been pretty solid for Labour. Not spectacular, but have been a pretty solid Labour lead through most of 2022, or the first half of 2022. Then suddenly you get this massive gap opening up. Which is really where the Conservatives, because the Conservatives do lose the election, of course, can't prejudge anything because no votes have been cast for the general election. But if the Conservatives do lose the next election, then this is where they lost it. Just here, that's where they lost the election, when that absolutely enormous lead opens up between Labour and the Conservatives. Then Rishi comes in, Rishi Sunak, and claws things back a little bit, improves things a little bit. Labour drops slightly from where they was, like in the 50% around the Truss government. And the Conservatives go up, slightly toward the mid-20s%. But that's as good as it gets for the Conservatives. And since then, they've just been treading water, really. But in the last few months, they've actually started dropping a little bit, and they're not that far away now from where they was at their nadir at the end of the Truss administration. If you can call 49 days an administration. Though the Conservatives actually falling slightly at the moment. We'll cover this more next month when we look at March's opinion polls. But there have been some absolutely dreadful opinion. I mean, already dreadful polls for the Conservatives anyway, but there have been some even more dreadful polls for the Conservatives during March. And one other thing of note is Reform. What's going on with Reform? Notice they are now above the Liberal Democrats down here. So the Conservatives are dropping. It looks like the latest drop to the Conservatives isn't necessarily going directly to Labour. Labour might already have got as many Conservative to Labour switches as they're going to get. Looks like the latest drop is actually gone from Conservatives to Reform, if anything. And we do see Reform, the Reform trend line ticking up there above the Liberal Democrats. So that's trouble for the Conservatives as well, because that means they're getting it on both sides. So they're getting it from Labour on one side, and they're getting it from the from Reform on the other side. So like a pincer movement is taking place from both the left and from the right for the Conservatives at the moment. So pretty grim position all round for Conservatives MPs, a lot to ponder. And this is how the latest government approval is looking for the YouGov tracker. That's going nowhere fast for the government either. At the moment, 69% are disapproving of the government. And 14, that's right, isn't it? 69% are disapproving of the government, 14% are disapproving of the government. And the number of people that are approving of the government is still actually a little bit under the people who don't know. That's unchanged from 2022. So very unpopular government that we see there. Now, of course, Rishi Sunak has recently ruled out an election on the 2nd of May. So there has been an idea that we might get a spring election. I was always dubious about that because parties and governments and whatnot that are in this sort of position, so very unpopular and, facing a really big election defeat, they very rarely will go early unless forced to. So technically this parliament can go until January 2025. The latest date for the election, if we go to the 2025 calendar, actually, which you see just here. So the latest date for the election, I think is, I should have checked this before the start, but I think it is something like 21st or 28th of January 2025. So technically the Parliament could run in January 2025. It would mean that the election would have to be called, if that happened, it would mean the election would have to be called in December 2024, and there will be campaigning over Christmas. So I think we can rule out January 25. I mean, the Conservatives and Rishi might try and hold on to January 2025, the absolute very last moment. It would look extremely desperate if they did that, but they might try and hold on. But anyway, it looks like May is now out, so I think we can cross off May. Rishi has ruled that out, 2nd of May. So there will be local elections, and also the mayoral election, of course, is going to be taking place in May as well, on May the 2nd. So I think all in all, the Conservatives are expecting quite a bad time of it in the local elections. Certainly with the opinion polls that we're currently looking at, you'd expect the Conservatives to be having a hammering during that local election campaign, and that local election result would be very bad for the Conservatives. So I would suggest that if you're ruling out May, you're probably ruling out June and July as possibilities as well. I doubt the Conservatives would want to have an election on the back of a really bad local election result. So I think we can rule out May, June, July. August, that's holiday month, everybody's away on holiday and whatnot. And September, well, to have an election in September, it's got to be called really in August, so that is probably out as well. Which leaves us with the final quarter of the year, the final 3 months, October, November, and December, most likely to be the months that we have the general election. 3rd of October, a bit early in the month, having it on the 3rd of October, you'd need to call it in September, and probably quite early in September, so that's probably quite unlikely. Obviously, Halloween, 31st of October, is a non-starter due to all of the Nightmare on Down Street headlines and whatnot. But you get from that, which leaves us for October with the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th as viable dates. 17th is my birthday, of course, so I might get a birthday election. I did see a piece, I can't remember who it was, like an opinion piece a few days ago, saying that 17th of October is very much in the works at the moment for Downing Street's thinking. So I might get a birthday election. And then in November, we've got the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. All those are viable and possible. And then for December, we would have the 5th, and we'd also have the 12th of December. I think the 19th would be a bit close to Christmas, possible, but I think 19th December would be a bit close to Christmas. Obviously not going to be having an election on Boxing Day, 26th of December. So 12th of December is quite interesting as well, because that would be exactly 5 years today since the 2019 general election. So that might be slightly attractive for Rishi then, for it to be, like nice and rounded to 5 years to the day. But I think October, I still think October, most likely the 10th, the 17th, or the 24th, or possibly into November, the 7th. Or the 14th, maybe. But whenever it is, it looks like the Conservatives are going to be having a very bad time of it, unless there's a dramatic change around in these opinion polls. We're just coming back to a central prediction once again from Electoral Calculus. There it is, Labour majority of 260 seats, way above what they got even in 1997 landslide, where they got, I think, about 180 seats. So yeah, it doesn't get much worse for Conservative and Conservative supporters. As the saying goes, things can only get better, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, we'll be doing it all over again next month, and next month we will be looking at those opinion polls that have been conducted during March, and we'll be seeing how things are looking then. If you've enjoyed this opinion poll tracker video, then please you like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment, let us know. Think about all of this. Will Labour get a landslide? How big will the Labour majority be, assuming they win the election? And when do you think that election is going to be? Let me know in the comments. Right, so I'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again next month with another tracking video. But for this one, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.